forward and said, in the period after the financial crisis, growth in the UK didn't continue at the same rate as it had before. And the LSE tried to say, well, what is the issue at this moment in time? And they identified kind of three major problems. And they said, firstly, one of the problems is short-termism. In infrastructure spending. And that's always a problem for the government. When they're planning out capital spending, they know there's another election coming, and therefore there's a tendency to want to make quick wins rather than really thinking about kind of what would benefit the economy 10, 15, 20 years from now when they know they're not going to be in power. The LSE recommended, their recommended was the creation of a national infrastructure board. So the idea would be that you would create a set of experts who would say to any government that came in, these are the things that we think you should be doing. If we look at kind of some of the things, I mean, over the last kind of 15, 20 years, there have been some successes. There's been a kind of rollout of kind of high-speed broadband in rural areas and so on. That wasn't done by a national infrastructure board, but it's this idea that you could have somebody that you make independent of the government that says these are the things that you should be prioritising, and then each government will simply refer to the national infrastructure board and will say, right, okay, this is where we should be putting capital spending. Perhaps a bit optimistic given the nature of politicians, but that's the idea. The second issue, they said, is compared with some other countries, there's a lack of support for small businesses, particularly in terms of finance. So small businesses, they always have problems getting loans for the obvious reason, that small businesses, they lack collateral. And by collateral, I mean assets. So if you're a bank, you want to lend to people who've got assets, because then if they don't pay you the money back, then you take their assets. Small businesses don't have them. And as he's saying, so this makes it really difficult for small, innovative companies to get the money that they're going to need. And what they recommended was the creation of a national business bank. And that bank particularly would target small firms. So it would have some government support, and the idea would be that this business bank particularly would be looking for small innovative businesses that had good opportunities but were struggling to find conventional finance from ordinary banks. And the third thing that really worried the LSE, perhaps slightly surprisingly, but the third thing that worried the LSE was there were big worry about social exclusion. They were really very worried about inequality. As you would expect from the LSE, they weren't worried in reality about the fact that people were being poor. What they were worried about was that inequality, what it was doing, is it was creating an underclass. And that therefore, your labour as a factor of production wasn't really being used because there was this social exclusion and so on. What it was doing, it was leading to high levels of economic inactivity. And what the LSE said is, well, we need to do something about that. And they said that what needed to be done really is we need education reforms. But they were quite specific. They didn't just say let's chuck some money at education. They're saying what we really need to do is we need to structure the government finances schools. We need to structure school finance in a way that what it's going to do is it's going to benefit disadvantaged students. And they recommended, so it's the most disadvantaged, the poorest students, should be targeted through school finance. And inspections, for example, as well, should be geared to look at how well students are doing, how well schools are doing, with students from the most disadvantaged backgrounds. In the past, there have been various initiatives that have attempted to do this. There's there's kind of in the current system, there's kind of a pupil premium, which is paid to schools if they have students who are from disadvantaged backgrounds, which is measured by needing free school meals. Then there's additional money. But the problem is that money, that research suggests that money isn't actually spent on disadvantaged students. It's just kind of free money for the school. I mean, in some cases it is, but in a lot it isn't. So the LSE is saying, if you were to do these three things, take a longer term view from a government perspective in infrastructure, building the right type of infrastructure for businesses. If you were to help small businesses access the finance that they were going to need, and if you could, reform the education system, so that everybody gets a chance to build appropriate skills, the sorts of skills that we're going to need for the 21st century, then these are the sorts of things that could, in the long term, feed into economic growth. Now, obviously, there are always problems with all these things, blah, 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 it all takes time and so on. Spending the money in wise ways, is sensible. Just look back at the evaluations of supply-side policies for kind of why these policies might not work.